Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives, where this week I have been driving Mazda's newest and largest SUV, the CX-90 Turbo Premium Plus. Now, I went to the launch event for this car early last year, and I drove the Turbo S through some beautiful twisty roads in Northern California, and I emerged from the experience thinking that is fantastic. But one thing you don't get to do during first drive events is actually live with the car. So now, I would like to bring you all along on a bit of a commute this evening in the CX-90 because I've actually been able to live with this car now for a few days, and I want to tell you all what it's been like. But of course, first, we're going to walk you around it and show you what it looks like inside and out. Now, the biggest attraction to this car for most people, myself included, is what's under the hood. A 3.3 liter turbocharged inline six with a mild hybrid system. In the Turbo Non-S, like this car, it produces 280 horsepower and 332 pound-feet of torque. If you opt for the Turbo S, power is bumped up to 340 horsepower, so there is a bit of an incentive to pay a bit more. The CX-90 starts at 37 grand. The Turbo S comes in just a few grand more than this loaded base Premium Plus, so I don't know that I would opt for this trim level. I'd probably just step up and get a Turbo S. Anyways though, this car we're driving today is finished in Artisan Red, which is a new color for Mazda, and we know Mazda does a great job with red. I don't think I like this as much as Soul Red Crystal, but it still looks pretty nice in my opinion. Now, of course, the CX-90 is a 3-row SUV, and Mazda just came out with the CX-70, which I was a little bit surprised to see is exactly the same as the CX-90, just minus a third row seat. So a little bit strange, but anyways, we'll show you guys practicality here in the back. We have our third row seats folded up right now. Luckily, this just has manual third row seats. You can just fold those straight down. Let me get my scraper out of here so you guys can see. Not a completely flat load surface, but you do get a pretty good amount of room back here if you need to put like a dog kennel or groceries, I don't know, whatever you want to use this for. Underfloor storage. Emily and I went to the grocery store with this yesterday, and we fit some juice under here, so kept it from sloshing around and moving around in the back, because that is one of the worst things in the world, when things are moving around in the back of the car while you're driving. So you've got a couple of spaces back here to make sure that doesn't happen. Of course, we have a power boot lid, or hatch, whatever you want to call it. This is a 6-seater configuration. We have 2, 2, and 2. I have a manual second row seat that allows us to easily get back into the third row. We have a little bit of a higher floor in this car. It is all-wheel drive, so we have to have a drive shaft to our rear wheels, which raises the floor, of course. But as a 5'11" individual, I do still have some room back here. My knees are a little high up, but they're not completely in my face. We also get some cup holders, USB-C ports, but perhaps most importantly, I have a good amount of headroom in this third row. Let's push that back forwards, and we'll show you the second row. Now, my favorite thing about this second row is what comes off of the seat here. It's our cup holders. So otherwise, they are hidden away, which I think is quite a clever design because it saves so much room. And they just pop right up. So that's pretty cool. Otherwise, in this Premium Plus, we get second row heated seats. We get a climate control panel. And we also get sunshades, which on a day like today is quite nice. Give you guys a look up front here before we jump up there. Lots of motorcycles out today. It's March, 60 degrees in Michigan. I'll show you this inline six, which, to be fair, you can't really see anything. And actually, before we go up there, I'm a little disappointed with these little inline six fender grill, fake little badge things, because on the Turbo S, they're like chrome trimmed and the inline six is silver, but this is just one cheap molded piece of plastic. I mean, on a $55,000 SUV, I don't know about that. That's a little iffy for me. We do at least get hood struts, which is a plus, to show you your large piece of plastic in which the inline six is underneath, but that's all you get to see here in the CX-90. So take a look. Now it's gone. Let's jump up front, let's start this thing up, and let's go for a drive. On this Turbo Premium Plus CX-90, we have some 21-inch wheels. We're on some Toyos, and we have a 275/45/21, I believe, squared setup. They should be the same size here on the back. Yep, they are. So, Toyo Open County. Okay, interesting. Cool, let's hop up front, start it up, and we'll take this thing for a drive. In the Premium Plus, we have Nappa leather, so that is definitely a plus to the Premium Plus. We also get heated and cooled seats, and a number of other little touches, heated steering wheel, and a Bose sound system. Eight bongs, let you know that your Mazda is fully started. We have a split folding armrest here in the middle. We have this nice kind of, what do you call it, like birch wood almost here, which is nice, completes the light vibe of the interior. The Turbo S is just so much nicer. You have like a split stitch steering wheel with like that seam that goes around the face, kind of like a Volvo. You get nicer color choices in the Turbo S. For me, it would be tough to justify the Turbo Premium Plus. I feel like it would make so much more sense to just go ahead and go straight up to the Turbo S. We have a new larger infotainment screen here in the CX-90 as opposed to other Mazdas. We do still have the command control knob, I think is what they call this, and we have wireless Apple CarPlay in here, which is a touchscreen when you're on CarPlay, when you're stationary, so that is pretty nice. Back here on the main screen, we have in-house navigation, which we'll run on today. Fully digital cluster, and a fully physical climate control. As I said, heated and cooled seats. You can't heat and cool at the same time, but I love that Mazda just kind of keeps things simple in the interior. There's nothing wild in here. There's nothing confusing. This is one of those cars that anybody could get in and just figure out how to use. The shifter actually is a little bit different, which we'll show you right now as we take this CX-90 out on the road and see what it's like to drive. So when I got in this a few days ago, again, it had been almost a year since I've driven one of these, I forgot that this shifter actually goes into place. So we have our pattern here. Park is to the left. To put it in reverse, you push the shifter over to the right. You can see our cameras there. And then to go into drive, you go down. That puts you into drive. It's just interesting because like to go into park, up and over, which, I mean, once you shift it one time, it's very easy to understand, but it's definitely a unique shifter. Nothing else really has anything like that, so kind of cool. Sending power to all four wheels in the CX-90 is an 8-speed automatic transmission. So, I mean, this thing has the recipe to be fantastic. Turbo, straight 6 engine, 8-speed automatic, all-wheel drive. I mean, it's kind of sounding like a BMW, and I suspect that that is kind of what Mazda is aiming for. It's kind of been what they've been aiming for quite a while now, but they finally got the proper powertrain to back it up. And it's a nice inline six. Is it up to the levels of a BMW or a Mercedes-Benz inline six? No, it's not, in my opinion, but you pay a third of the price for this car that you do for a European competitor, so just keep that in mind. The CX-90 starts at $37,000, so you can get into one of these for pretty cheap. Not only is that engine sweet, the chassis is as well. I honestly think the chassis on this car is my favorite thing, even above the engine. It's one thing Mazda never skimps on. They always make sure that their cars drive properly, handle properly, drive like a Mazda, as they like to say. And that really does have meaning. pretty good noise from that 3.3 liter inline six. And most of the time, the 8-speed delivers pretty smooth shifts. I have had a couple little misshifts this week, mostly when the car is cold, which you can't fully fault it for that. The one thing that is a bit strange is something that Mazda calls i-stop, which is kind of like their version of start-stop, but since this car is a mild hybrid, it will occasionally shut off completely while you're driving. Usually when you take your foot off the gas, once it's fully up to operating temp, it'll shut off, which is very strange. Let's put ourselves into sport. Let's take this corner here, show you guys what I'm on about with this chassis. I mean, this is a 3-row SUV. It grips on some Toyo all-season tires. I mean, it's so fun to drive, and that was my biggest takeaway from the launch event, was just how fun this thing was to take on a back road. We're gonna do that one more time, because why not? We have 3 drive modes in this car: Sport, Normal, and Off-Road. Of course, this week I've just been switching back and forth between Sport and Normal. Ah, yes. We'll address that in a second. Hold on. Great torque with this car. Inline sixes are just so much better than V6s. All right, let's take control with our paddle shifters. The steering is probably the best in segment. I mean, they have mastered the steering, the chassis, the suspension in this CX-90 to a level that, you know, you could throw me in a sports car from 20 years ago and it probably wouldn't handle as well as this CX-90. They've done such a fabulous job, and it makes me, in a way, sad, because imagine what they could be doing with this platform with a sedan, with a new iteration of the Mazda 6. Really nice feel through that brake pedal. We're gonna stop and do a 0 to 60 for you guys. All right, we're just gonna roll into it here. Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it's not fast, but it's adequate. All the power that you need, in my opinion. Do I think I can beat these people at the green? I think I can. This car is really just a joy to drive. I mean, that's the best part about this. And if you are a driver, if you're somebody that really enjoys driving, but you have like 4 kids, this is the car. This is the car that I would have. So this is a nice transitionary period to talk about what it's been like to live with the Mazda CX-90 this week. Let's go ahead and get our cruise control set. That will change the look of our cluster there, as you can see. And well, I want to start with what I said I was going to address earlier, and that is some sort of rubbing sound that's coming from underneath this car. And that could be the fault of another journalist or YouTuber driving this over a curb. I would not be surprised at all to learn that, but something is definitely not fitting properly as far as like plastic cladding goes under the car. So if you go past a certain steering angle, you do hear a bit of a rubbing noise, but that's okay. That might not even be the car's fault. Otherwise, just a couple of other silly little things that have been bothering me this week. Mainly the cross traffic alert, and that's because this one doesn't make any sense. It yells at you after the car is already 100 feet down the road. So pretty much no matter what, if you're pulling out somewhere and there's cross traffic in front of you, and you even think about lifting your foot off the brake pedal, the car is yelling at you. Now, you're probably thinking, well, you can just turn that off, and you would be correct, but it turns itself back on every time you start the car. So that is a bit irritating. Otherwise, this driver's door makes a little bit of a weird noise sometimes when you open it. It sounds like there's some sort of plastic that isn't fitting right, or potentially this door panel has been off and whoever reinstalled it didn't put it back in correctly. Oh, and then there's the transmission. Sometimes it doesn't really shift properly from the 1 to 2 change, and I think that probably has to do with the mild hybrid just not being calibrated correctly. So there's been a couple hiccups this week, but otherwise, everything else has been great. Interior build quality seems to be pretty nice. Nothing really shakes or rattles in here. Ingress and egress, getting in and out of this car is good. It doesn't have rear proxy key, which kind of sucks. Interior space up here, if you're just sitting on the highway, actual driver's compartment is very nice. I've got a very soft, squishy little armrest for my elbow here. That is fantastic. It's the same for my right elbow on the center console. My knee has a nice soft place to rest here on the center console, or the little, our raised console here. So that's good. I'm not fatigued after driving this car for a little bit of distance on the highway, and that's important for a car like this, because cars like this have to go long distances comfortably, and Mazda has done a good job. Adjustments on our driver's seat, we have lumbar adjust. Of course, we have a good amount of height adjust. So we have 2-way, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess you could call this 8-way. So that's nice. Good amount of lumbar adjustment. You can't move it up and down, but you can move it in and out. Yes, that's what I was looking for. So we have adaptive cruise here in this CX-90. We're going to jump into the right lane here in a second to take an exit ramp. Just get by the Rosas. Pulled over a nice man in a Silverado. I'll have to call Sam, perhaps. Actually, we'll make a pass on the left, as that is the proper thing to do. So this will now have to accelerate from 69 to 79. My foot is off the accelerator. Very good. Steering weight stays nice. I mean, the CX-90, it's not floaty. It really feels dialed in everywhere, which is nice, because it's one thing to have a nice driving SUV. Sure, you could argue, going to take it on a back road is fun, but where it really matters is here on the highway, and it feels nice. So call that a pass. Okay, we have to get over in half a mile, so let's put this inline 6 to use here. Jump over behind this Telluride, which I would rather have this than. This is high up on the list, guys. I don't really know of much else I would pick over this. The Toyota Grand Highlander is nice. A little bit more of an open cabin in that car. This car does feel a little bit smaller on the inside than a Grand Highlander. We're going to scrub off a little bit of speed so we can take this corner and not just immediately catch up to this F-250. Let's firm up our steering a bit here in sport mode. Coming in hot. The world would be so nice if there were just less people driving. Dare I say, we need more public transportation around these areas. If it means I don't have to merge going 40, I'm all for it. We'll drop back down into normal mode here. Once we merge on here, we'll give you guys a second to observe NVH here in this Mazda CX-90. good news is usually when the entrance ramp is like 3 miles long like that one was, it gives the NPCs enough time to get up to 70. All right, let's get this reset. I do like the couple of different cluster designs in the CX-90 here. All right, I'll shut up for a sec so you guys can hear our road noise and wind noise. And even with it being a windy day here in Michigan, the CX-90 is quiet, and it is quite a slippery design here. We don't have a lot of sharp edges on this car, so pretty good as far as that goes. And speaking of it being quite slippery, between the Topher and I, and about a tank and a half of fuel this week, 22.6 mpg, so not really too bad. I mean, to put this in perspective, the Genesis GV80 we were driving a couple of months ago, also with a turbocharged 6-cylinder powertrain, also taking premium fuel, was getting like 14 mpg in exactly the same driving conditions, on exactly the same roads, on pretty similar outside temperatures. So this inline six is pretty efficient. And, you know, I've done a fair amount of accelerations and hard driving this week, so I would say that if you drive this like a normal person, easily you could have 24 to 25 mpg combined, which isn't bad for an all-wheel drive 3-row SUV. So good job, Mazda, here with the CX-90. You've made something quite nice. There are just a couple of things in this car, you know, build quality-wise, like I mentioned earlier, that need a little bit of help, I think. Just a little bit of refinement could go a long way here, even with this inline six. Some of the different vibrations and noises that it makes. And again, this could be unique to this car, just with it being a super early production vehicle, with it being a press car. But I think in 2025 or 2026, when they've worked out all the bugs here with the CX-90, it's going to be an epic purchase. It'll just be best in class. And if you want something that still has a 6-cylinder in this segment, I mean, you can't even have this with a non-hybrid 4-cylinder. The only way you can have a 4-cylinder is if you go for the PHEV. Just going down the highway, you know, the door panel's a little tall for you to drive like this, I suppose. But that's most things nowadays. All right, well, that's just about going to wrap it up. But before we leave, we've got to do a sound system test on this Bose premium sound system. You guys can see everything I've been listening to, and I've played this sound system test song so much that it's on repeat now. So we'll go ahead and listen to that, and yeah, see what you guys think. I think this is a great sound system in this CX-90. Leave it to Mazda to make another great Bose sound system. I think this sounds fantastic, and it may even be best in class for something like this. I mean, it's definitely better than the JBL and the Grand Highlander. I would even say it's up there with the Lexicon and the Genesis GV80, and that's a whole, you know, other level above this. Really good punches from that bass here in the CX-90, and that's something that the Kia EV9 was lacking that I was driving earlier this week, that you all saw a couple of weeks ago here on the channel. Overall though, I mean, I'm still pretty happy with this CX-90. It's been nice to actually live with this car. I mean, I drove it almost a year ago at the launch event, and well, after living with it for a few days, I still really do like it quite a bit. I mean, I have very minimal complaints, and all of them have to do with, I think, just this being an early built car. I think that in a couple of years they'll have everything ironed out, and this will be a really, really compelling choice here for the segment. All right, let's get off the highway, find somewhere to wrap up. It's just another one of those days where I want to go out and film the car, don't really have anywhere to go, so it has been a bit of a fake commute today, so we're going to see where we end up. I'm kind of excited. Hopefully not in the bumper of this Fusion that's going 55. Okay. Let's try out this passing power. Yeah, good kick down. 8-speed reacts quickly. Yeah, this thing just floats. It's so quiet. Now, at this point in the video, I assume if you're still watching, you're probably a subscriber, or you just really like the Mazda CX-90. But either way, thank you for sticking around. Thank you for hanging out. And I want to know if you guys are still liking this style of video, if you still kind of like this more of a real-world review of the car. You know, a little bit of highway, a little bit of sound system, some impressions of living with the car for the week. Do you still like this kind of video? Or would you like to see something different? So let me know. I mean, I'm still having fun just doing whatever, throwing the camera on and going and filming the car. I think I'm gonna go here. I don't know where here is, but it looks like a nice, like, open parking lot. So we'll jump in here. Oh yeah. I'm filming this on a Sunday. It's nice because nobody's anywhere. So, wow, there's nobody here. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh, I don't know. Thank you for watching. Any suggestions? I would love to see them in the comments. I do, of course, value you guys' feedback. Okay, a little bit of a different end to our video today. The GoPro decided to overheat, but it's okay because I was just about to get out and wrap the video up anyways. So let's shut this thing off. Let's get out. Let's show you this thing one last time before we wrap up. Hopefully you guys got a good idea of what it's like to kind of live with a CX-90. Of course, if you have any questions, make sure to ask me in the comments. I'll get back to you, and always open to any suggestions as well. But the CX-90, I mean, how can you complain with a turbocharged inline-six? You know, it is another SUV, but I'm happy that Mazda has done something just a little bit different, and they've brought an inline-six to a segment that otherwise doesn't have one. So, a good thing. If you like driving, if you like Mazdas, this still drives like a Mazda, and you won't be disappointed. So, just like wait a couple years to buy one. Let them sort out all the kinks. But that'll wrap it up for us today. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.